I did not cry. I did not shout. I did not throw anything, break anything, or storm out of my own home. I simply stood there in the doorway of my living room in Vancouver, watching my grandson and his fiancée laugh at the leather-bound photo album I had spent 3 months putting together for them. The sound of their laughter, high, careless, cruel, is something I still hear when I close my eyes at night. But what I remember most clearly is the way Madison flipped through the pages with 2 fingers, like she was handling something contaminated, and said loud enough for everyone at the engagement party to hear, "Oh my God, Lucas, did your grandpa raid a nursing home scrapbook room? This is so cringe." 23 people were in that room, my living room. The room where I had raised Lucas after his parents died in a car accident on the Sea to Sky Highway when he was 7 years old. The room where he had learned to walk, learned to read, where I had held him through nightmares and helped him with homework and taught him how to be a man. And my grandson Lucas, the boy I had given everything to, laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not an uncomfortable sound. He threw his head back and laughed like it was the funniest thing he had ever heard. I placed the album carefully on the side table. I excused myself. I walked to my study, closed the door, and sat down at my desk. And I began making phone calls. My name is Richard Callahan. I am 67 years old. I worked 42 years as a civil engineer in British Columbia before I retired. I am not a wealthy man by Vancouver standards, but I am comfortable. I own my home in Point Grey outright. I have investments. I have savings. And for the last 21 years, since Lucas came to live with me, I have built my entire life around ensuring that boy would never want for anything. His parents, my daughter Sarah and her husband Michael, died on a rainy November night coming back from Whistler. Lucas was in the car. He survived with a broken arm and nightmares that lasted for years. He was my only grandchild. My wife had passed 3 years earlier from cancer. Sarah was my only child. When she died, Lucas was all I had left of her. So I took him in. I was 46 years old, planning a quiet early retirement, looking forward to travel and woodworking, and maybe finally writing that book about Vancouver's infrastructure history I had always talked about. Instead, I became a single parent again. I hired a grief counselor for Lucas. I drove him to soccer practice 3 times a week. I attended every parent-teacher conference, every school concert, every science fair. I helped him apply to universities. I paid for his tuition at the University of British Columbia when he decided he wanted to study communications. I paid for his apartment downtown when he said the commute was too long. I paid for his laptop, his camera equipment, his editing software when he decided halfway through his degree that he wanted to be a social media influencer instead. I did not understand what a social media influencer was. I still do not entirely understand it. But Lucas was passionate about it, and he had lost so much already in his life, so I supported him. I set up a monthly allowance of $8,000 to cover his expenses while he built his following. I told him I believed in him, and I meant it. Over 5 years, I watched him build what he called his brand. He made videos about lifestyle and fashion and travel. He had 600,000 followers on Instagram, 300,000 on YouTube. He made some money from it, not much, but some. Not enough to cover his lifestyle. That was where I came in. The monthly allowance continued. The rent payments continued. When his car broke down, I bought him a new one, a Tesla Model 3, because he said it was on brand. When he wanted to go to Thailand for a month to create content, I paid for the trip. When he came to me and said he had met someone special, Madison, a 26-year-old wellness influencer from Toronto, and they were talking about getting married, I was happy for him. He asked if I would help with the wedding. I said, of course. We sat down in my kitchen, and he showed me the plans Madison had made. The venue she wanted was in the Okanagan Valley, a vineyard estate that cost $45,000 just for the weekend rental. The photographer she wanted was $18,000. The videographer was $15,000. The flowers were $12,000. Her dress was $9,000. I looked at the spreadsheet Lucas had put together on his laptop, and the total at the bottom was $487,000. I took off my reading glasses. I looked at my grandson, this boy I had raised, This young man who was supposed to be the future of our family, and I asked him if he was serious. He said Madison deserved her dream wedding. He said they had worked so hard on their content, and this wedding was going to be a major event for their followers. He said the photos alone would be worth it for engagement. He said it was an investment in their brand. I did not argue. I told him I would think about it. Over the next week, I reviewed my finances. I met with my accountant, Thomas Chen, who had handled my money for 20 years. Thomas looked at the wedding budget and whistled low. "Richard," he said, "this is more than most people in Vancouver spend on a down payment." I knew that, but I also knew that Lucas was all I had. He was Sarah's son. He was my legacy, and I had saved carefully my entire life. I had more than enough. The wedding would not bankrupt me. So I agreed. I told Lucas I would cover the wedding costs. He hugged me, actually got up from his chair in my kitchen and hugged me, and said I was the best grandfather in the world. Madison posted on Instagram that day about how blessed she was to have such a generous family. She did not mention me by name. She did not post any photos of me. But she posted photos of the vineyard venue and wrote, "Dreams do come true." That was 6 months ago. I also told Lucas that when he got married, I would give him access to his trust fund. Sarah and Michael had left him a modest inheritance when they died, about $300,000, which I had invested conservatively over the years. It had grown to just over $2 million. The trust stipulated that Lucas would receive full access when he turned 30 or when he got married, whichever came first. He was 28. Marriage would unlock it early. I made one addition to my promise. I told Lucas that I was also going to gift them an additional $500,000 as a wedding present, money for a down payment on a house, or to invest, or to do whatever they wanted with their lives. I wanted them to start their marriage without financial stress. Lucas cried when I told him. Real tears. He said he did not deserve me. He said he was so lucky to have me. He said he loved me. I believed him. The engagement party was Madison's idea. She wanted to host it at my house in Point Grey because, as she told Lucas, your grandpa's house is so aesthetic. Like old money Vancouver vibes. My followers will eat it up. I agreed to host it. I arranged for catering from a local company. I bought champagne, good champagne, not the cheap kind. I had the house professionally cleaned. I even had the garden landscaped because Madison said she wanted photos out there. And I made the photo album. I had been working on it for 3 months. I am not good with computers or design software, so I did it the old-fashioned way. I went through boxes of photographs in my basement, photos from Lucas's childhood, photos of Sarah and Michael, photos of our family history. I selected more than 200 photos. I had them professionally scanned and printed. I bought the best leather-bound album I could find. I arranged every photo carefully, chronologically, with handwritten captions describing each memory. There were photos of Lucas at age 7, small and scared after the accident. Photos of his first day at his new school. Photos of him playing soccer, graduating from elementary school, blowing out candles on birthday cakes. Photos of Sarah holding him as a baby. Photos of his parents' wedding. Photos of my wife holding Lucas the day he was born. Her smile so wide it seemed impossible that she would be gone just 4 years later. I included photos of myself and Lucas over the years. Our camping trips to Vancouver Island, teaching him to fish, the day he graduated from high school, the day he moved into his first apartment. At the front of the album, I wrote an inscription. For Lucas and Madison, may your marriage be filled with as much love as the generations before you. These are your roots. Never forget where you come from. With all my love, Grandpa Richard. I had wrapped the album in elegant silver paper. I had planned to give it to them privately, but Madison saw it on the side table when she arrived and asked what it was. I told her it was a gift for them. She insisted on opening it right then, in front of everyone. I should have said no. I should have insisted we wait. But I was proud of the album. I had worked so hard on it. I wanted to share it with them. Madison tore through the wrapping paper, literally tore it, not carefully, like someone opening something precious, and opened the album. She stood there in the middle of my living room, with 23 people watching, and she flipped through the pages quickly, barely looking at the photos. Then she said it, that line I will never forget. "Oh my God, Lucas, did your grandpa raid a nursing home scrapbook room? This is so cringe." She held the album out at arm's length like it smelled bad. She laughed. A few of her friends, other influencers she had invited, people I had never met, laughed too. One of them, a girl named Brittany, took out her phone and started filming. I looked at Lucas. He was standing next to Madison, champagne glass in hand, looking at the album. I waited for him to defend it. To defend me, to say something kind, something respectful, something that showed he understood what that album represented. Instead, he laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable laugh. He looked at Madison, looked at their friends, and he laughed with them. He said, "Babe, it's very retro, very grandpa aesthetic." Madison smirked. "Should we post this? Like, ironically, when your grandpa tries to be Pinterest?" More laughter. Brittany was definitely filming now. Someone else had their phone out too. I stood there in the doorway. I had just come from the kitchen, carrying a tray of appetizers the caterers had prepared. I set the tray down on the side table, next to the album that was still in Madison's hands. I looked at Lucas one more time, my grandson, the boy I had raised, the boy whose entire life I had funded, the boy who was standing there in clothes I had paid for, holding champagne I had paid for, at a party I was hosting and paying for, planning a wedding I was paying for, about to inherit $2 million I had carefully grown for him. And he was laughing at photographs of his dead mother. I did not cry. I did not shout. I excused myself politely. I said I needed to check on something in the kitchen. I walked to my study instead. I closed the door. I sat down at my desk in the study that had been my sanctuary for 40 years, and I picked up my phone. The first call I made was to Thomas Chen, my accountant. It was 7:15 on a Friday evening, but Thomas answered. He knew I would not call him at that hour unless it was important. "Thomas," I said, "I need you to do something for me first thing Monday morning." "What is it, Richard?" "I need you to freeze Lucas's monthly allowance, effective immediately." There was a pause. "The $8,000 a month?" "Yes." "Richard, are you sure? Is everything all right?" "I am sure. And I need you to prepare paperwork to restructure the trust fund Sarah and Michael left for Lucas." Another pause. Longer this time. "Richard, that trust fund. The terms were set by Sarah and Michael. You're the trustee, but changing the terms is complicated. I know, but I am the trustee. I have discretion, and I want to add a condition. Lucas can access the funds when he turns 30, as originally planned, but the marriage clause is removed. Getting married will no longer trigger early access. That's a significant change. I know it might require legal review. I need you to contact my lawyer, Harrison Montgomery. I need this done as quickly as possible, and I need complete confidentiality. Lucas is not to know about any of this until I tell him myself." "Richard, what happened?" "I will explain later. Can you do this for me?" Thomas agreed. He said he would start the paperwork Monday morning and would conference with Harrison first thing. The second call I made was to Harrison Montgomery, my lawyer. Harrison had handled my affairs for 30 years. He had drafted my will, handled the trust fund setup when Sarah and Michael died, and managed every legal matter I had ever needed. He was 72 years old, technically retired, but he still took my calls. "Richard," Harrison said when he answered, "bit late for a Friday, isn't it?" "Harrison, I need to revoke a gift promise." "What kind of gift promise?" "I told my grandson I would give him $500,000 as a wedding present. I need to revoke that promise." "Can I do that legally? Was it a formal contract?" "No. It was a verbal promise, made in my kitchen 6 months ago." "Then yes, you can revoke it. A verbal gift promise without consideration is generally not enforceable in British Columbia. You have no legal obligation to follow through, especially if the gift has not been delivered yet." "Good. I want documentation of that revocation. In writing. I want it on record." "Richard, what is going on?" "I will tell you everything on Monday. But right now, I need to know. The wedding venue Lucas and Madison chose the vineyard in the Okanagan. I put down a $50,000 deposit using my credit card. The final payment of $395,000 is due in 3 weeks. If I cancel now, what happens to my deposit? If you cancel, you would likely forfeit the deposit. That's standard in venue contracts. Is the contract in your name? Yes. I made all the bookings. Everything is in my name. The venue, the photographer, the florist, the caterer. I told them I wanted to handle it all as my gift to Lucas. Then you have the legal right to cancel any and all of those contracts. You will lose the deposits, but you are not obligated to make the final payments. How much will I lose in deposits total? I would need to review all the contracts, but typically venue deposits are 10 to 15%. Photography and other vendors are usually 25 to 50%. You might lose somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 total if you cancel everything. That is acceptable. Richard, are you telling me you want to cancel your grandson's wedding? I am telling you I want to cancel my financial obligation to fund a wedding that I no longer choose to fund. Whether Lucas and Madison get married is their decision, but they will do it without my money. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I will prepare the documentation Monday morning. And Richard, I'm sorry. Whatever happened, I'm sorry. I thanked him and ended the call. The third call I made was to my bank. I called the after-hours customer service line and requested an immediate stop payment on all future automatic transfers to Lucas. The monthly $8,000 allowance was set up as an automatic transfer from my checking account to his. I had the bank representative cancel it, effective immediately. Then I requested my credit cards be locked for any charges not directly authorized by me in person or with a verbal confirmation code. This was to prevent Lucas from making any emergency charges on my cards if he discovered what was happening. The fourth call I made was to the Tesla dealership in Vancouver, where I had purchased Lucas's car 2 years earlier. The car was registered in my name. I had meant to transfer it to Lucas, but had never gotten around to it. I asked the dealership what the process would be to report the car as needing to be returned due to a family matter. They told me that if the car was registered in my name, I had the right to reclaim it at any time. They offered to send a tow truck to pick it up if I provided the location. I told them I would call back Monday with details. The fifth call I made was to the property management company that handled Lucas's apartment building downtown. I had signed the lease. I paid the rent every month $4,200 for a 2-bedroom condo with a view of False Creek. The lease was month to month at this point. I gave them 30 days notice that I would not be renewing. The notice period meant Lucas would have until the end of next month, but I wanted the process started immediately. By the time I finished making calls, it was 8:30 in the evening. The party was still going on in my living room. I could hear music and laughter. I sat in my study for another 10 minutes, collecting myself. Then I walked back out. Madison and Lucas were taking photos in the garden with their influencer friends. Golden hour lighting, the perfect Vancouver spring evening. Madison was posing with her left hand extended, showing off her engagement ring, a ring I had given Lucas $15,000 to buy. I walked over to them. I said, Lucas, could I speak with you privately for a moment? He looked annoyed at the interruption. Grandpa, we're kind of in the middle of a shoot here. Can it wait? No, I said calmly. It cannot wait. Something in my tone must have registered because he handed his phone to Madison and followed me back into the house. We went into my study. I closed the door. What's up? He asked, casual, like we were just chatting about the weather. I looked at him, really looked at him. This 28-year-old man in designer clothes, with perfect hair and perfect teeth, who had every advantage in life handed to him and thought he had earned it all himself. Lucas, I said, I want you to leave my house. He blinked. What? I want you and Madison and all of your guests to leave my house. The party is over. Grandpa, are you serious? We have like 40 more people coming. This is our engagement party. The party is over. Please gather your things and leave. What the hell is going on? Are you feeling okay? Do you need to sit down? I am feeling perfectly fine. I am thinking more clearly than I have in years, actually. I want you to leave. Is this about the album? Jesus, Grandpa. It was just a joke. Madison didn't mean anything by it. It was not a joke, Lucas. It was disrespectful. But this is not about Madison. This is about you. About me? What did I do? You laughed. What? I spent 3 months making that album for you. I put photographs of your mother in there. Your mother, Lucas, who died so that you could live. And you stood there with your friends and you laughed at it. His face changed. Not to remorse, to annoyance. Oh my God, you're seriously this upset about that? Grandpa, it's not that deep. It's just old photos. We weren't laughing at Mom. You were laughing at everything that album represented. You were laughing at your family, at your history, at me. This is insane. You're being dramatic. Perhaps I am. But I have made some decisions, and I wanted to tell you in person. First, your monthly allowance ends today. There will be no more deposits into your account. His face went pale. What? Second, the trust fund from your parents will remain locked until you turn 30. The marriage clause has been removed. Getting married will not give you early access. You can't do that. That's my money. It is money your parents left in trust for you, with me as the trustee. I have discretion over the terms. I am exercising that discretion. This is bullshit. You can't just... Third, I am canceling all contracts related to your wedding. The venue, the photographer, the florist, all of it. I will absorb the deposit losses, but I will not make any further payments. Lucas stared at me like I had slapped him. You're canceling our wedding? I am canceling my funding of your wedding. If you and Madison want to get married, you are free to do so. But you will pay for it yourselves. We can't afford that wedding. You know we can't. Then I suggest you plan a wedding you can afford. What about the $500,000 you promised us? The down payment money? That promise is revoked. You can't do this. I can, and I have. Fourth, your apartment lease will not be renewed. You have until the end of next month to find new accommodation. Are you fucking kidding me right now? I did not raise my voice. Fifth, the Tesla is registered in my name. I will be reclaiming it next week. You will need to make other transportation arrangements. Lucas's hands were shaking. His face was red. You're taking my car? My apartment? Everything? I am taking back the things I provided. Things you apparently believed you were entitled to without gratitude or respect. This is insane. This is actually insane. You're doing all of this because Madison made one joke? I am doing this because you made a choice. You chose to humiliate me in my own home. You chose to mock the gift I spent 3 months creating for you. You chose to laugh at photographs of your dead parents. And you chose to do all of that in front of strangers, for entertainment, without a second thought. It was a joke. No, Lucas. It was cruelty. And I will not finance cruelty. Not anymore. He stared at me. Then his expression changed. Calculating. You're bluffing. You love me. You won't actually do this. I am not bluffing. You're seriously going to destroy my entire life because your feelings got hurt? I am not destroying your life. I am removing my financial support. You are 28 years old. You have 600,000 followers. You have a degree from UBC. You are perfectly capable of supporting yourself. You simply choose not to, because I have made it easy for you not to. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything we've been through, after Mom and Dad died, after you raised me, this is how you treat me? Lucas, I raised you. I loved you. I gave you everything I had, and tonight you showed me exactly how much that meant to you. You showed me in front of 23 people that you have no respect for me, no respect for your family, and no respect for the sacrifices that made your comfortable life possible. So that's it? You're just done with me? I am done enabling you. If you want a relationship with me moving forward, you will need to demonstrate that you understand why what you did tonight was wrong. You will need to show respect, and you will need to stand on your own 2 feet financially. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, Madison is not going to believe this. Then you should probably go tell her. He turned and walked out of the study. I heard him calling for Madison. I heard raised voices in the living room. I heard Madison shriek, "He's what?" 10 minutes later, my house was empty. They all left. Lucas and Madison and all of their influencer friends, out into the spring evening with their phones and their outrage and their certainty that I was the villain in this story. I sat alone in my living room. The caterers had left food out on tables. Champagne glasses were scattered on surfaces. The leather-bound photo album was on the floor by the couch, where Madison had dropped it. I picked up the album. I wiped off a champagne stain from the cover. I sat down and opened it to the first page. There was a photo of Sarah holding newborn Lucas in the hospital. She looked so young, so happy, so impossibly alive. I closed the album. I placed it on the shelf in my study. And then I started cleaning up the remnants of the party. The weekend was quiet. Lucas did not call. Madison did not call. On Saturday afternoon, I received a text from Lucas. "I hope you know you just ruined our lives." I did not respond. On Sunday, Madison posted on Instagram. She did not mention me by name, but she posted a long caption about toxic family members and financial abuse, and how she and Lucas were staying strong together through betrayal. The post had over 50,000 likes within an hour. Monday morning, Thomas Chen called. "The paperwork is ready for your signature. Harrison and I have coordinated. The trust fund restructuring will take a few more days for the legal review, but the allowance cancellation is already in effect." "Thank you, Thomas." "Richard, I have to ask. Are you sure about this?" "I am sure. Lucas is going to be very angry. He is already very angry. Do you think he will come around?" "I do not know. But I know I did the right thing." That afternoon, I called every vendor involved in the wedding and canceled. The venue in the Okanagan, the photographer, the videographer, the florist, the caterer, the band, the cake designer, every single contract. As Harrison had predicted, I lost the deposits. $78,000 total, gone. I did not care. It was worth it. By Tuesday, Lucas had apparently tried to access his trust fund and discovered the marriage clause was gone. He called me for the first time since Friday night. "You actually did it," he said when I answered. "You actually changed the trust. I told you I would. That's my inheritance from my parents. It is an inheritance they left in trust for you, with conditions. I am honoring their wishes by ensuring you receive it when you are mature enough to handle it responsibly." I'm 28 years old. Age and maturity are not always the same thing, Lucas. How am I supposed to live? You took my allowance. You're taking my apartment. You're taking my car. I have bills. I have expenses. Then I suggest you get a job. A job? Are you serious? I have a career. I'm an influencer. Then use your influence to generate income. You have 600,000 followers. Monetize them. It's not that simple. It takes time to build brand deals. I need money now. Lucas, I am not continuing this conversation. You have until the end of next month in your apartment. That gives you time to figure out your situation. I suggest you use that time wisely. Madison is going to leave me because of this. You know that, right? She wanted the big wedding. She wanted the money. If I can't give her that, she's going to leave. If Madison only wants to marry you for money, then perhaps you are better off without her. You don't understand. You're old. You don't get how relationships work now. I understand that respect and gratitude are timeless, Lucas. And I understand that if someone only loves you for what you can provide them, that is not love. He hung up on me. Wednesday, I received a call from Madison's mother, a woman named Patricia, whom I had never met. She lived in Toronto and had not attended the engagement party. "Mr. Callahan," she said, her voice icy, "I need to speak with you about what you are doing to my daughter's wedding." "I am not doing anything to your daughter's wedding, Patricia. I am simply declining to pay for it." "You promised to pay for it." "Madison has been planning this wedding for months. She has told everyone about the vineyard venue. She has posted about it online. You are embarrassing her." "Madison embarrassed me in my own home. I am simply choosing not to fund someone who treats me with disrespect. She is a 26-year-old girl. She made a mistake. She is a 26-year-old woman who is old enough to understand the consequences of her actions. My daughter is devastated. She is crying every day. You have ruined what should be the happiest time of her life." "Patricia, with respect. That is not my problem. I offered to fund a wedding as a gift to my grandson and his fiancée. When they demonstrated a lack of respect for me and my family, I chose to withdraw that gift. They are still free to get married. They simply need to fund it themselves. We cannot afford a wedding like that. We are middle-class people. Then I suggest they plan a middle-class wedding. You are a spiteful old man. Perhaps I am. But I am a spiteful old man who no longer has to fund people who treat me poorly. Goodbye, Patricia. I hung up. Thursday, the Tesla dealership came and towed Lucas's car from his apartment building. He called me, screaming. I did not answer. By Friday, 1 week after the engagement party, Madison broke up with Lucas. She posted about it on Instagram, of course. A tearful selfie with a caption about how she couldn't stay with someone who wasn't financially stable and how she needed a partner who could provide the life she deserved. Lucas called me crying, actual sobbing. Are you happy now? He said. Madison left me. She said I'm broke and embarrassing. Are you happy? Lucas, I am not happy that you are in pain, but I am not surprised by this outcome. Madison showed you who she was. She was with you for money and status. When those things disappeared, so did she. You did this. You took everything from me. I took the things I was providing. You still have your degree, your health, your followers, your opportunities. What you do not have is someone funding your lifestyle while you disrespect them. I hate you. I am sorry you feel that way. I never want to see you again. That is your choice, Lucas. But my door is open if you ever decide to apologize and have an honest conversation about what happened. He hung up. That was 6 weeks ago. I have not heard from Lucas since that phone call. He blocked me on all social media. He has not returned my calls or texts. I know from mutual acquaintances that he moved back in with a friend from university, sleeping on their couch. I know he got a job as a server at a restaurant in Yaletown. I know he is working 40 hours a week for the first time in his adult life. Part of me wonders if I was too harsh. Part of me lies awake at night thinking about that 7-year-old boy who lost his parents, who woke up screaming from nightmares, who clung to me in the hospital and asked if I was going to leave him too. That boy needed me. That boy deserved every bit of support I gave him. But that boy grew into a man who forgot where he came from. Who forgot what it meant to respect the people who sacrificed for him. Who thought he was entitled to everything without gratitude. I think about the photo album. It is still on the shelf in my study. Sometimes I take it down and look through it. I see Sarah's smile. I see Lucas as a child, gap-toothed and innocent. I see the life we built together after tragedy. And I see the moment I decided to stop enabling someone who no longer valued any of it. People have asked me if I regret it. Friends, acquaintances. Thomas, my accountant. Harrison, my lawyer. Even the woman who cuts my hair asked me about it because apparently Lucas's story made it onto some local Vancouver gossip blog. I tell them all the same thing. I do not regret it. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Lucas became someone who would laugh at photos of his dead mother. I regret that I perhaps gave him so much that he learned to value nothing. But I do not regret removing my financial support after he humiliated me in my own home. Someone asked me if I think Lucas will ever apologize. I said I do not know, and I genuinely do not. He might. In a year, in 5 years, in 10, or he might never. He might carry this resentment for the rest of his life and tell everyone that I am the villain in his story. And maybe I am. Maybe to him, I will always be the grandfather who destroyed his engagement, took away his comfortable life, and forced him to grow up. Maybe he will never understand why I did it, but I will understand. I will know that I made a choice to stop funding cruelty. I will know that the boy I raised was capable of laughing at his own history, and I chose not to reward that. The money I saved by canceling the wedding over $400,000 I donated to the Vancouver Cannock Place Children's Hospice, where Sarah volunteered when she was in university. I did it in her name. Lucas will never know that. The $500,000 I had promised Lucas as a wedding gift, I have set aside in a separate investment account. If Lucas ever comes to me with a genuine apology, if he ever demonstrates that he understands what he did and why it was wrong, that money will be waiting for him. but it will not come without accountability. The trust fund remains locked until he turns 30. In 2 years, he will have access to the $2 million his parents left him. He will be able to do whatever he wants with it. I hope by then he will have learned something about responsibility, about gratitude, about respect. But even if he has not, even if he takes that money and wastes it, at least he will not be able to say, "I withheld his inheritance out of spite." His parents left him that money. It was always his. I just decided he needed to wait until the age they specified to receive it. I am 67 years old. I have lived a long life. I built a career I am proud of. I had a marriage I cherished. I raised a daughter I adored. I lost them both, my wife to cancer, my daughter to a car accident, and I survived. I raised my grandson through his grief and my own. I gave him everything I had to give, and when he showed me that everything meant nothing to him, I made the hardest decision of my life. I stopped. I stopped giving. I stopped enabling. I stopped pretending that unconditional support meant accepting conditional respect. And now I sit in my house in Point Grey, in the living room where Lucas learned to walk, and I look at the photo album on my shelf, and I wonder if I will ever hear from him again. I did not cry when he laughed at those photos. I did not shout when he humiliated me. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and I am alone with my memories, I do cry. Not for the money, not for the wedding, but for the little boy who needed me and the man he became who did not. The truth is, I do not know if I did the right thing. I only know I did the thing I had to do, and I will live with that choice for however many years I have left. But I will live with it on my own terms, with my dignity intact, with my self-respect preserved, and with the knowledge that I did not let cruelty go unanswered, even when the cruelty came from someone I loved more than my own life. That has to be enough, because in the end, that is all any of us have: our choices, our boundaries, our refusal to accept disrespect, even from the people we would die for. I did not cry. I did not shout. I made phone calls. I took action, and I changed everything. And I would do it again.